Penguin Random House Audio presents Working on a Song, the lyrics of Hadestown. Foreword read by Steve Earle. This is the author, Anaïs Mitchell. For team dramaturgy.
Foreword. This is Steve Earle. As I'm writing this, there is no theater in New York or anywhere else in the world that I know of. That's a heartbreaking statement to see staring back at me from my computer screen, because theater is and always has been my favorite art form. After all, I am, when all is said and done, a storyteller, and theater is storytelling with a complete box of sensory tools at your disposal, and poetry and 3D to boot. That's why I moved to New York, to make music for theater, knowing full well that the odds were against me. Bigger and better singer-songwriters than myself had been handed their heads when they turned up in the city, refugees from a dying record business that couldn't have cared less about theater until they woke up one day to find that downloading was real and people just weren't buying records the way they used to. Well, we'll see. Anaïs Mitchell came to Broadway much as her Orpheus went to hell, around the back. Her odyssey began on the folk circuit, a world of coffee houses and house concerts, people with fiercely free spirits who aren't waiting around to be discovered. They simply bypass gatekeepers in L.A., Nashville, and New York and make music, recording and releasing it themselves if necessary. Then they go out on the road, and after proving the worth of their wares before a live audience, they sell CDs and vinyl directly to the people, sometimes right off the stage. It was in that DIY, fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants environment that Hadestown was born. I loved the New York Theater Workshop production so much that I saw it 3 times, so I knew the show pretty intimately by the time it closed in July 2016. I returned to New York after nearly 2 years of nonstop touring just as it opened at the Walter Kerr Theater on 48th Street. So I bought a ticket online, rode the train up, sat down in the first row, excited, but frankly a little apprehensive. I knew Hadestown would be bigger on Broadway, grander in every sense, but I see a lot of theater. It's kind of all I do, at least until baseball season starts. And I was aware that the upgrade afforded by the jump from not-for-profit to commercial theater isn't always a good thing artistically. I was stunned. Oh, it was bigger, all right. It was also better, more focused and more joyous and heartbreaking at the same time than ever before. I went away wondering what on earth had transpired during those months that made something I believed to be pretty near perfect so much more than it had been before. This book is the answer to that question in Anaïs's own words, presented in 2 simultaneous narratives, separate but both distinctly hers. There is the unique and invaluable document that is her concise first-hand account of the sometimes triumphant, often humbling experience of practicing a collaborative art form. And there is, of course, the deep, dark poetry of the lyrics that are at the heart of Hadestown, which could only have been arrived at by the act of a great songwriter sitting down alone and putting pencil to paper, or fingers to a QWERTY keyboard. Steve Earle, Fairview, Tennessee, April 2020.
About this book. A musical is a living, breathing animal, so much more than the sum of its text. Its music, arrangements and orchestrations, staging and choreography, sets and props, costumes, sound and lights, directing and acting choices. Every one of these elements and the creative minds who dreamed and wrestled with them during the making of Hadestown could fill a book like this one. This book, though, is about the show's lyrics and my writing and rewriting of them over many years and productions. In this audiobook, you'll find the complete Broadway version of each song or scene. Hadestown is a sung-through show, so even dialogue is rhymed and metered, followed by notes on where it came from, how it evolved, and old and discarded lyrics. Some of these lyrics appeared in productions, others never did. At the bottom of every draft I sent around to my collaborators, I included a little section called Orphans. It was the name I gave any lyric that I liked enough to share but couldn't find a home for. A few of them, at least and at last, have found a home in this book. This book is for anyone interested in a behind-the-scenes look at Hadestown. It's also, I hope, a book for writers, especially songwriters crossing over into dramatic storytelling. It's not really in my nature to make a how-to out of my process, which has mostly been one of feeling my way in the dark, one foot in front of the next, holding the hands of my collaborators. But I hope the process described here will be useful to you. If nothing else, I hope it gives you faith in and on the long road of writing. A couple more Hadestown metaphors for you. There were so many times searching for a line, verse, or chorus where I felt like I was banging my head against a wall, and I used to describe it like that. For the last few years, I was working in a small band practice room the size of a closet in Gowanus, Brooklyn. I briefly shared the composer Dave Malloy's studio, since I work early and he works late. Later, I got my own spot in the same building. There were no windows in those concrete walls. The head-banging attitude was, the line was wrong, 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 until it was right. As if the right thing was the only one that mattered. But looking back on these old drafts and even the orphans, I see that writing is more like gardening. You're raking around in the dirt, pulling up weeds. Flowers you love and find beautiful die on you, but not for nothing. They go back into the soil and they nourish it. It's the act of raking that prepares the ground, and it's the seeds of those dead, beautiful flowers that replant themselves in it and eventually come up right. The right thing could not exist without the wrong ones. People and places. Hadestown began as a DIY community theater project in Vermont in 2006 and 2007. I had written just a handful of songs when I asked arranger-orchestrator Michael Chorney and early director-designer Ben T. Matchstick to work on a folk opera. Its first working title was A Crack in the Wall. The cast and band were all friends and neighbors of ours, and I played the role of Eurydice. We did just 2 weekends of shows the first year, but in 2007 we set out on a mini tour of Vermont, traveling through blizzards in a silver school bus full of sets and props. We had very little time or money to prepare for those productions, but Ben is a shoestring genius who pulled together a gorgeously gritty show, and Michael set the rich tone of the Hadestown sound, complete with trombone and strings. Hadestown was just one act back then, and more abstract than any of the later productions. In 2010, Righteous Babe Records released a studio album of the music of Hadestown. It took a couple years to make. I revised a bunch of songs, wrote some new ones, and the recording was meticulously produced by Todd Sikafus, who later became an arranger-orchestrator together with Michael. I again sang the part of Eurydice, and the album featured guest singers Justin Vernon, Orpheus, Ani DeFranco, Persephone, Greg Brown, Hades, the Hayden Triplets, Fates, and Ben Knox-Miller, Hermes, as well as ensemble vocals from the original Vermont cast. For a few years after the album release, Michael's band and I traveled around performing Hadestown as a concert. We worked with different singers in different regions. For California Sings Hadestown, we had 14 people and a dog in a 15-passenger van. It was on that tour at McCabe's Guitar Shop in Santa Monica that I met Dale Franzen, who later partnered with Mara Isaacs. They became the lead producers of the show during its continuing expansion. My husband Noah Hahn and I moved back and forth between Vermont and New York City twice during these years. We were living in the city when I met Rachel Chavkin in 2012, and fell absolutely in love with her work on Dave Malloy's Natasha Pierre and the Great.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?